June 12th, 1981. A day us movie fans will never forget. Let's talk about the release of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Hey, I'm gonna go get my Indiana Jones and everything.
Watch out, you're gonna be in the car.
Welcome back to the Junk Room, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with another video. And today is the 40th anniversary of the release of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, I don't really have much to really tell you anything new about Raiders. This is more of a video just remembering Raiders of the Lost Ark. I know looking around you think he's a huge Star Wars fan, and it's true, I am a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm also a huge Indiana Jones fan. There's Indy right over there. I have a little section of all the Indiana Jones right over here. Now, it's true, I don't have as much Star Wars. I mean, I don't have as much Indiana Jones stuff as I do Star Wars, just not as much of it out there. But I was crazy about Indiana Jones. Now, the summer of 1980, I saw The Empire Strikes Back. Couldn't believe it. I was like, Star Wars is still cool. Star Wars, you go into a sequel, you kind of worry, but you're like, Empire Strikes Back, that's awesome. And for a year, I was gung-ho about Empire. What's going to happen to Han Solo? Did Darth Vader lie? And then something took my mind off Star Wars. Summer of 1981. Indiana Jones. I can remember before this movie came out, my brother telling me, I think he read it in Starlog or one of those movie magazines, that George Lucas, who I knew as, the creator of Star Wars, we all knew George Lucas, and Spielberg, who we all fell in love with Jaws and Close Encounters, he was teaming up with Harrison Ford to make a movie. I mean, put yourself in let's say you heard that in 1980. You just saw The Empire Strikes Back. You're a fan, of course, of Jaws, a big popular movie. Star Wars you're a huge fan of, and you say, hey, the coolest character in Star Wars, Han Solo? Well, he's doing a movie with the guy that created Star Wars and the guy that created Jaws. And you're like, this is, what a good combination of bringing three together. So I can remember my brother telling me that they were all three going to do a movie, and I was like, I couldn't wait. Now, I don't remember seeing a trailer and all that or TV spots, but I can remember it being in the theater, seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it blew my mind. And today, it's still one of the best movies ever. I know I love Star Wars and everything, but I think if you put Raiders and let's say Star Wars and New Hope together, side by side, look at it as a movie, Raiders has to be a better film, quality-wise. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars, like I said. But if you look at it just as a movie, I think you have to admit that Raiders is better written, better acted, better everything. But it's hard to say I like Indiana Jones better than Star Wars. So Star Wars is more than a movie to me. Star Wars is my DNA. Well, so is Indiana Jones, I guess. But I can remember seeing this in 1981. Me and my brother went. I know my parents didn't go. They never went to the movies with us. I don't know who took us. But I can remember getting home, and we had woods behind our house. And it was like from that day on, I was playing in the woods as Indiana Jones, at least for that year. I played in the woods a lot growing up. We had vines where we could swing across the creek. I remember we would swing out to one vine and grab a tree and ride it down into the... It sounds odd to explain, but that's what we used to do. But ever since then, I found a hat that didn't look anything like Indiana Jones' hat. But I threw it on my head, summertime, put on my leather jacket, didn't care how hot it was. I was in those woods, jumping over the creek, swinging on vines, climbing trees, doing whatever I had to do to feel like Indiana Jones. I can remember, too, my grandmother, they had a truck, and they had one of those, kind of like in Raiders when he goes out the window and he holds on to that little Mercedes, I think it is. I don't know what you call it, the grill at the top, the little round thing, and it goes down like that and it breaks off, and you know what I'm talking about, right? I can remember my grandparents had a truck, and it had one of those things on it, Ford or something on it, not Mercedes, of course. And it was made to where it would bend, had a spring inside, so it would bend down and pop back up. But I can remember rolling around on that hood of that car. They were inside. If they saw me, they probably would have screamed at me, "Now you're going to scratch it, junk kid!" But I can remember sliding off the hood of that car, grabbing hold of that little, again, I don't know what you call it, that little thing on top of the hood and letting it slowly bend down because it had a spring in it. I wouldn't break it. Feeling like Indiana Jones, you know, when he broke his off. I can remember crawling under the truck. Of course, I wasn't holding on to it and it wasn't moving like in the movie, but I can remember that. I say I just wanted to play Indiana Jones, and a few years later, probably closer to the Temple of Doom time, I finally got it. I was like, yeah, I want an Indiana Jones hat, I want a leather jacket, I want a whip. I got a bull whip a couple years before, probably a few months after Raiders. I found it at a yard sale. But I could never get that whip to work. I would swing it and try to get it to go around a tree branch so I could swing on it. It would never stay up there. And then if I ever did get it to stay up there, it wouldn't come down. And it just, and it comes back down. I could never figure that out. Movie magic, I guess. But I can remember getting this jacket. My parents got me a little leather jacket, and it had fur around the collar.
Turn it up.
And I can remember I had an Indiana Jones hat. First, my grandmother had a brother that had one that looked kind of like Indiana Jones, a fedora that he had when he was younger. I think he might have been passed away by then or getting close to being passed away. She got it from him. Slightly different color, but I didn't care. To me, when I put that hat on, I was Indiana Jones. And it was kind of cool because it was one that he probably really bought back in probably the 40s or something. So it was wore out and it was cool. But then for around Christmas time, I got one that was a John B. Stutson hat. It actually had Indiana Jones on the side, a little pin that said Indiana Jones. In fact, I got one that looks exactly like it over here. Thanks to a good YouTuber that sent me that hat right there. But by 1984, I had the leather jacket. I had the hat. Thought I was Indiana Jones.
Don't move.
But let's get back to seeing Raiders. I remember seeing Raiders. Me and my brother, I was like, this is great. And I had a friend next door, talked about him before, Boyd. And I was like, I went and told him, I said, you've got to go see this movie. Forget Star Wars. Forget any other movie we see. You've got to go see this. So talked him into going. He didn't know what it was. We went to see it. And the only memory I have of that is that the cave scene after he gets the idol and swings across the that big opening part. For some reason the film was flipped upside down. That always stuck in my mind. For like 10 seconds the frame was upside down. I don't even know how that happens. I didn't work at movie theater. But he loved it. I loved it. And of course we went back home, back into the woods, and would play Indiana Jones all summer. And I can remember acting like I burnt my hand on something. Get something, anything round I picked up, I had that like I was Toad, a Tot, whatever his name is. Burned my hand. It was just the greatest movie at that time I've ever seen. Still probably top 5 favorite movies of all times. And I can remember the merchandise. I had the Kenner figures, had the play sets. I don't know what happened to them. Ain't it odd? You can have these things as kids growing up and you love them and they just disappear in your life. Comes into your life and goes away just as fast. But I can remember, not just that, I had an album. I still got this album today. I thought it was the story of Raiders. You know they did the story of Star Wars record, where there's a narrator and he goes through Star Wars with using sounds from the movie. I got a Raiders one, but it was just the movie onto a record, no narrator. But I still lay back in my room, put on my big headsets, and listen to that record over and over again. Loved it. But I remember the little small record I had that came with a little book that said, you know it's time to turn the page when you hear Indiana Jones's bullwhip crack like this. I can remember reading along with that book. Most of the time I didn't read along, I just looked at the pictures, turned the page when that whip went off, or just listening to it without the book. I love those books. I had Star Wars ones like that. I had Raiders, and I had Temple of Doom. Loved those books as a kid. And then the video games. It probably came out a little later than the movie, but we got Raiders of the Lost Ark, Atari. People give it a bad rap, but look at that Raiders game. It's hard to do, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's very hard to do. But even if you know what to do, it's still hard to figure out. But it's a puzzle game. It is, for a time period, for a game like that, it's amazing. Because most of the games you were just fly to the left or fly to the right, run to the right, shoot at something. Never had real no ending until you got a high, you're just trying to get a high score or until all your people ran out. But Raiders, you could actually find the Ark and solve the game. It was the first game I can remember. I'm not saying it's the first one ever. The first game I can remember where I actually could solve the game and complete it. I had to watch my brother over and over again until I figured out what you do, because you got to find the medallion, you got to find the head pieces, stuff of raw, you got to find the parachute, you got to find the cave, you got to find the shovel, you got to do all this stuff. It's awesome. I love it. It doesn't look great, but I do love it. But I even can still solve it. I did a video a couple years ago on this channel where I actually play it again and solve it. But if you don't know what you're doing, like I said, it's going to be pretty hard. And then Temple of Doom came out. I had that Temple of Doom where you had to rescue the kids from the kids from, I don't know if you rescued the slave kids or not. I don't remember what you did. I just remember you running around, rode on tracks and everything. I remember playing it all the time, but I never could solve it, or I never was good at it, but I used to play it all the time. But let's get back to Raiders. We'll talk about Temple of Doom in about 3 years, I guess. I had a Raiders board game, and I can remember playing that by myself, setting it up. I play a lot of board games by myself. I think it's because my brother's a few years older than me and my sister. They were doing their own thing. They didn't want to sit around with a junk kid and play board games. Now, I remember we probably played it a few times, but I'm talking, 6 months after the movie came out. They didn't want to sit around and play Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I still did. I can remember sitting it up, playing it by myself. Have two, take one turn, then take another turn to somebody else. Well, not somebody else, just me, but you know what I mean. But to me, Raiders, Indiana Jones, not only is it a great movie, but that's what I say, just what Star Wars did for me when it comes to the toy side, Indiana Jones did for me when it comes for the fun. Like I said, just going back into those woods. I got a big memory of being in those woods, all thanks to Indiana Jones. Now, it's not just thanks to Indiana Jones. I remember I had a knife I wanted to get. It looked just like Rambo's knife with the compass inside. I thought I was First Blood. I got that knife with the compass inside. Got it at an Army surplus store. It has some needles and threads so you can sew up and you cut your arm. I wasn't about to do that, but it still was cool to have. I can remember going out in the woods and getting that compass. I didn't know what a compass was, how it worked, what it meant, but I thought I was John Rambo, at least for a couple of months. So it wasn't just Indiana Jones that made the woods fun, but Indiana Jones, of course, made it a lot of fun. I can also remember this. We had an embankment going down into the creek by the house, and I can remember sliding down it, and I'll grab a root and try to hold on to it like Indy does in the movie. I can remember it was just so much fun. I can't believe that Indiana Jones is 40 years old. And on top of that, we've got a new Indiana Jones movie being filmed right now. Who would have, if you told, hey, junk kid, in 40 years, you're going to be excited for another Indiana Jones movie. And don't get me started. There's people that want to piss on your parade. They're like, oh, a new Indiana Jones movie. And then you get excited. You're like, I can't wait to see this. And they have to tell you in the comments about how it's going to be woke, or it's going to be a female agenda, or it's going to suck like The Last Crusade. Not Last Crusade, Crystal Skull. We'll get to that in a second. I'm excited for an Indiana Jones movie. You can make 10 bad ones in a row, and I'll be excited for the 11th one. Maybe that calls me a fanboy, whatever you want to say. I don't care. I get excited. If I can see Harrison Ford, I don't care how old. I know, oh, Harrison Ford is older. No shit. His first movie was 40 years ago when he was almost 40 then. I don't know why people have to rain on your parade, but I'm excited for the Indy 5. I see all these leaked photos of Indy on the set and everything, and I'm pumped up. I'm ready. I can't wait. James Mangold, that's his name. He did V Ferrari. I heard he's really good. I really love Logan. If you watch my channel, you know I'm not really in the superhero movies, the Marvel movies I don't really get into, but I really love Logan. And so I got good hopes for this. We got George Lucas out of the way, who, let's be face it, when it comes to the bad stuff in Crystal Skull, 95% of that is probably due to Lucas. The swinging CGI monkeys, Mutt Williams on a vine, the story. Even Spielberg said he wasn't happy with the script, but did it because George wanted to do it. So, don't get me wrong, I love George Lucas. But I think with him out of the way, we might get a better Indiana Jones movie, but who knows. But I just want to touch more on Raiders, 40 years of Raiders. And I didn't even talk about this. I've got it right over here. Hold on, guys. Yeah, this is it. I got this for Christmas for $50. My grandma gave us a limited Christmas, now $50. And I was like, well, this is what I want. Now, I've seen it on old ads that it was cheaper than this, but my mind might be for $40, but let's say $40 to $50 after tax. I couldn't believe it. This came out in 1983. You can see right there too, it has a teaser for Temple of Doom. Focus. Is that going to focus on there? Let me see. I don't know why it doesn't want to focus. Focus! Oh well, it doesn't want to focus. Sorry about that. It's just coming to theaters May 25th, 1984. Temple of Doom. Yeah, the trailer's not really good. It just shows Harrison Ford, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg are back, and it don't show any scenes from the movie or anything. But I remember, God, I remember this. Hearing this was coming out. VCRs were new then. This was the only. Everybody rented movies. No one wanted to own a movie. And even my parents were like, you want your grandma to buy you a movie? Why? Just rent it. Make you a copy of it. I was like, no, I've got to have it. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark. You don't understand. Look at this. It's Raiders. I've got to own it. So you can see I took a lot of care of it. Got it right here. Even rewinded it, didn't I? I remember my brother too was like, let her buy it for both of us, because you're going to be like, you're not watching my Raiders. I wasn't like that. I was never like that. And I can remember when it came on HBO, it was really just a few months later, because it came on HBO around the time Temple of Doom was released. And I can remember getting the TV guide, the HBO guide, and it had Raiders on the cover, just staring at that thing. Now, I had the videotape. I could watch it anytime I wanted to watch it. But somehow, if it was on HBO, I would watch it. And I can remember putting this into the VCR at the same time it came on HBO, and linking them up. And somehow the one on HBO would be over before this one was. That's how they ran at different speeds. It would always get off. I don't know why I had that much time while I was trying to match it up. I guess I was I don't know. But anyway, that's a look at Raiders of the Lost Ark. 40 years. I can't believe it. 40 years. I was hoping Lucasfilm, Kenner, Hasbro, I guess Hasbro's been celebrating 50 years of Lucasfilms, and with the 40th anniversary of Raiders, I was hoping we would get some retro figures released or something special. But no, it seems Hasbro only knows about Star Wars when it comes to Lucasfilm's 40th anniversary. But we didn't get much. There's some stuff out there if you can find it. But hey, let's all go watch Raiders today. Let's celebrate the 40th anniversary. Well, I want to thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Raiders of the Lost Ark and some memories of when you first saw it. And as always, thumb up so you know you like my content. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk again soon.
Junkman. Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.